the swing states, and more importantly, the Latino voter and how important that is and who's actually getting it right. From swing states, in fact, the Harris and Trump campaigns are now focusing on appealing to the Latino voters. Both campaigns are fighting for that crucial Latino vote base in these battleground states, particularly Pennsylvania, pursuing US's second largest racial or ethnic group. But they're chasing those votes in very different ways. Donald Trump is wrapping his appeal to Latino voters in a broader message of prosperity and nostalgia for the pre-pandemic economy under his presidency, while also leaning on high-profile endorsers. And Harris's campaign is instead pouring more money into advertising. On your screens are some of those numbers. To make more of that, let's quickly play out this report. We come back and talk on this with Professor Shapiro.
Race to White House is nearly drawing to a close now, with about a month for the final verdict. Madam President or Mr. President, we will find out. But one thing is clear, that both Democrats and the Republicans are putting their best foot forward to sway the Latino voters, the nation's second largest racial or ethnic group across the battleground states. There are over 36.2 million Latinos eligible to vote in the United States. And when it comes to politics, their voices pack a serious punch. In fact, Latinos are expected to make up about 14.7% of eligible voters in November 2024, making them the second largest voting bloc behind white voters.
Well, I think my show gives people the respect that Latin people deserve. And we're going to be 36 million registered voters in this election. And Kamala Harris and all the candidates need to pay respect to that and get experts that know Latino culture, know Latino issues, and cater to us. And then you'll get our vote. That 36 million, we're going to decide who the next president is.
Trump's pitch to Latino voters often revolves around tough policies on immigration, but highlighting job creation and business opportunities. Harris, on the other hand, is pushing the importance of immigration reform, healthcare, and social justice. She is highlighting the party's work to make life easier for Latino families, like the pathway to citizenship. Harris's campaign is pouring more money and efforts into advertising, targeted messaging, and on-the-ground organizing. Since the beginning of August, Harris allies have spent $13.4 million on advertising in Hispanic media, according to Ad Impact, which tracks political ads. Trump's campaign and allies have spent $609,000 million. It's a tight race. Latino voters are split between concerns about the economy and immigration. However, make no mistake, Latino voters are no monolith. Their priorities shift across regions, generations, and even gender.
This is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first Black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this.
But the larger question, who has the upper hand here, Harris or Trump? Where do the polls hit? According to a Pew Research Center survey conducted between August 26 to September 2, 2024, a majority of Latino registered voters, 57%, say vote for Vice President Kamala Harris, and 39% say that they would vote for former President Donald Trump. Winning over new voters will be central to both Harris's and Trump's paths to victory this November, not just in Nevada or Arizona, where Latinos comprise roughly 30% of the population, but also in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, where fast-growing Latino populations could play a decisive role in tightly divided states. Ridhima Kedia for NDTV.
Professor Shapiro, I want to ask you this, that will the Latino voter actually make or break this election, as you were hearing that report telling?
Yes, I think that group is very important. Now, keep in mind, any group can matter substantially in any of the key states because the election is really going to be very, very close. Remember, Joe Biden won the 2020 election by 40,000 votes in 3 states. So that's the margin we're talking about here. As I said before, the Democrats need to get the Latino vote closer to 70% supporting them. And the one thing to keep in mind here is that Latino voters vote. They're a large number. They're the largest group of eligible voters, but they vote at lower rates than any of the groups, and particularly Latino women. And the Democratic strategy through ads and through in-person door knocking, personal conversations.
So you're basically saying the turnout for Latino voters is lower than the national average, and Democrats need to do more to bring their voter base to the polls.
That's right. And get larger percentages of support among that group. It's an important combined strategy.
Talk to us about the kind of messaging. There's been a complete contrast in how the Republicans, particularly Donald Trump, is approaching this vote bank as against how Kamala Harris's campaign is pitching. How do you see the difference? It's very stark, but how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, Trump has the easier case to make here. In particular, Latino voters have been disgruntled with the performance of the Biden administration. They're concerned with bread and butter issues, jobs, and especially high prices, and also the cost of housing. Latino voters, in that sense, are really no different from white voters, and Trump can make a very strong case here. On the other hand, Harris is trying to make a clear, important social justice case, equality case, and so forth. And the abortion issue in particular doesn't help enormously among Latino voters, because you have Catholic voters and especially Christian Pentecostal voters in the Latino community who are pro-life, not pro-choice.
Indeed. And we have some of those numbers on our screens in terms of how significant the Latino voter base is. I want to ask you this, Professor Shapiro, you said that some of the issues are not different than the white vote bank, the white electorate as well. But what, according to you, is some of the key factors on which this very large ethnic vote bank is likely to decide? Or do you think it's not a monolith and you cannot go by one particular factor?
I think you should think about these groups in basically the same way as you think about white voters. Among highly educated, Black voters and Latino voters, they're voting disproportionately for Harris. The one thing they're reflecting on is, and this may or not be an accurate memory here, is that they think they did better when Trump was president than when Biden is president. And that's the same kind of message that resonates with the white community as well. And the white community is not monolithic, and we've now seen that the Hispanic, Black, and Asian American community is not monolithic either.
So then would you say then economy is really the overarching issue? It doesn't matter whether you decided on ethnicity or race. It's essentially economy which is the overarching issue here.
Yes, I think that's the best explanation for why Trump has been doing better than one might expect among Latino voters. And there are lots of reports and anecdotal information about this, where you hear this kind of rhetoric coming out of the Latino community.
All right, Professor Shapiro, thanks much for speaking to NDTV. Robert Shapiro, Professor of Political Science and in the School of International and Public Affairs at Columbia University.